Bobby Banson, lawyer, joins us for the news review. But right before we get into it, you know the segment is brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. We're offering free prostate and free female fertility screening. Locate us in Spintex, across Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade, Anaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Enzima. You can also reach us via the phone lines on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But only the beginning of the news review. I'd like to say a very good morning to Bobby Banson. Good morning, Bobby.
Good morning, Ben.
Really good to have you. Nancy Minto kan oko shehi. And I mean bisa say woko day. How have you been, sir?
Good, managing. A bit here, a bit there.
Right. Is there any, there's been the SONA, because it's been a while since we spoke, there's been the SONA, there's been the Ashaiman incident, there's been a shortage of vaccines. A few prominent issues have come up. There have been the torrential rains as well. Would you like to maybe share your thoughts on any one of these? I don't know why I think you'd be going to Ashaiman, but I'll leave that to you. Before we get into the papers, any quick thoughts?
Well, the Ashaiman incident was very unfortunate. I'm hoping that for once, in terms of the jurisprudence, we would have the victims actually take the powers that be to court, purely and wrongful exercise of discretion. That is not the manner in which the applicable laws anticipated that law enforcement officers will carry out their duty. We are not, for lack of a better word, in a lawless jungle. You see these kind of things in military regimes. And if since 1992 we moved out of it, I think that is a shame. And it's quite unfortunate as well that I've heard some persons walking in the corridors of power saying that there is nothing to apologize about. This is very wrong. Two wrongs do not make a right. The fact that certain persons acted wrongfully does not mean that the whole society or the whole community should be treated in the way that the military did. So I hope that we do not only talk and allow it to slide, but legal processes by the victims or their families would actually be taken to ensure that whatever wrong that may have occasioned them because of these unlawful acts would be reversed.
Well, let's see how it goes. And I'm as interested as you are in terms of the victims themselves pursuing this. Almost 200 of them affected. And look, I have said, great respect for the military. I think it was on Newsfile or one of those programs where I heard people talking about, someone talking about going to Lebanon and the sort of respect accorded Ghanaian military, Ghanaian soldiers. But in the same breath, you can't go international and go and be professional and come to Ghana and be anything, less. It's also been made mention of how often we bring the military in. Like, there's an incident here. We're very quick to bring in the military. They are not trained for crowd management, crowd control, or stuff like that. But I do accept, in this instance, they went on a foray of their own. And apart from that so-called, I don't even know whether to call it an apology or at least a revelation by the military high command. I have lots of friends in the military. I keep saying that some of the highest ranking officers, some of them are people that I respect, people who have taught me and people who are teaching me. But what is wrong is wrong. You can't have people drinking gutter water, so to speak, water from the carcasses of, animals and all of that, excrement. Then you let them drink it, you lash people, flog them. I mean, it was bestial to say the least. And but traditionally we say that mothers or females have this passion against meeting out some of these things. You normally would say that, okay, these are men who would do it. But interestingly, in some of the videos I saw women in military uniform actually partaking in some of these things. And I asked myself, where is that touch of feminism that we grew up being used to? The maternal feeling or instinct.
Yes. and I was very, very shocked. That observation really, really shocked me. I mean, as in our cultural setting, there are some things that we say, at least if it's a mother, if it's a woman, there's this touch there, but I didn't see it.
Let's follow up on that story. The Daily Graphic has as its banner headline, "A Ashaiman soldier's death, 6 suspects arrested by police." And I want to find out from you whether maybe this justifies the action taken by the military. I'll get into the details of the story, but mind you, they were accosted by the military, rounded up, then some of them were handed over to the police. So, per the story, 6 persons have been arrested in connection with the murder of the 21-year-old soldier, Private Imoro Sheriff, in Ashaiman in the Greater Accra region on Saturday, March 4, 2023. The arrests followed an intelligence-led week-long police operation. Those arrested separately at their various hideouts included 2 persons who were believed to have stabbed the soldier during an attempt to rob him of his mobile phone and his backpack, with the 4 others suspected to have bought the stolen phone, so purchasing stolen goods. A highly placed police source gave the names of the suspected killers as Safianu Musa alias Dayogu and Ibrahim Abdul Rakib. Both were arrested at their hideouts in Ashaiman on Thursday, March the 9th this year. Now, last Friday, the police arrested 2 other suspects, Samuel Tete alias Wiper and Abubakar Sadiq alias Birdman. 2 additional suspects, Yusuf Mohammed and Abdul Ghafaru Abdul Karim, were arrested last Saturday and yesterday, respectively. Now, the source said all the 6 suspects were currently in police custody and would be put before court today. Does this in any way does it right the wrong of the military in any way? Out of those rounded up, these 6 have been pointed to. What's your take?
Well, I think it even makes it worse. If you read the statement carefully, they said a week-long intelligence by the police themselves. Some they claim were arrested in their hideouts.
Right.
It seems to suggest that, this arrest could have been effected or would have still been effected without what the military engaged in. We've been in this country where there have been high-level crime involving murders of police, maybe doing robberies and what have you. And you have the police within 48 hours being able to effect arrest of the suspects without this Rambo-style kind of operation. And so if indeed intelligence is not showing force, intelligence has got nothing to do with show of force. And so the fact that the police claim that after a week-long intelligence, they've been able to arrest 4 of the suspects or the persons involved that would help in the investigations. It betrays the should I say, sense, for lack of a better word, of the Rambo-style approach used by the military, especially when more people, they have been victimized. And in criminal procedure or in criminal law, they say that it is better to let 1,000 people walk free than to harm or imprison the wrong person. And so this is a classical case where if indeed the police have been able to effect the arrest of only 4, then what happened to the rest? Why were they brutalized? Why were they traumatized? Why were they treated as if they are second-class citizens who do not have any rights under our Constitution?
Right. Let's look at some other stories very quickly. Vaccines arrive. Immunization resumes for 3 childhood diseases, and attempting to influence judge, chief, another convicted of contempt. Those stories are on pages 16 and 20, respectively. Let's take a quick look at the 2 of them. So the Ghana Health Service has said routine childhood immunization for the 3 conditions that had been interrupted due to a shortage of vaccines had been restored. This follows the arrival of a consignment of the vaccines in the country over the weekend and their subsequent distribution across the country. Although the immunization resumes today on island and hard-to-reach communities, it will resume tomorrow due to transportation time. The vaccines that have been in short supply since the last quarter of last year are measles, rubella, oral poliomyelitis vaccine, and Bacille Calmette-Guérin for tuberculosis. So these 3 especially, I think I heard the Director General of the Ghana Health Service mention that there were about 12 or something of the number, and 3 of them had been in short supply, which had raised all of this. But, Bobby, a lot of questions have been asked. How does this happen? I have said that, honestly, no serious country allows this to happen because children are the most vulnerable. And to let this happen in instances where there's an outbreak of measles up north, over 100 of them, I'm sure the number may have increased by now. And some have said that the rapid action, and I remember doing blunt thoughts and harping on this issue, is only because the media has gone hard on the matter and they've been forced to act. If we hadn't, put this on the front burner, who knows? Perhaps money would not have been released for, UNICEF to deliver drugs. I don't know what you make of this story, but it's heartbreaking and it's frustrating all in one. I've heard parents interact with us and talk about the fact that this was simply something that should never have happened. Maybe your quick thoughts to that before I take the next story.
Well, if you ask how it happened, there are people who are paid by our taxes to make sure this does not happen. If it has happened, are we querying them? Are they being made to account for how it happened and the steps they will take to ensure it does not happen?
The health minister said on the floor of parliament that it would never happen again.
Well, how? Because I'm not sure that it's the first time that we've had things like this, that the people in office have said it will not happen. Well, when I hear stories like this, the first thing I tell myself is, if the people who are responsible for making sure these vaccines reach the people that are supposed to reach, if they have children or they have close relatives who would be at the losing end if they do not discharge their obligation, perhaps they will feel the need, they would act with more urgency. But if we keep putting these people in office who, after being put in office, and I'm not talking only about the minister, but sometimes it goes beyond even the public, those down there, the health workers and what have you. If they are not at the losing end if these vaccines do not appear, they will not treat it with that urgency. And this has happened. We do not have any public record of how it happened. Did the health workers down there start telling the powers that be that, listen, we are running out of vaccines. We will need a restock within 2 months, within 1 month, within a week. Were these communication recorded, as in were they documented, and whose responsibility was it to act, and why didn't the person act? Is it that the Ministry of Finance refused to release monies? Is it that the health ministries refused to give the Ministry of Finance the necessary information? I think that we need to have an inquiry into some of these things so that the history does not repeat itself. If the people that are involved or there was the relation of duty and the people did not act in accordance with their statutory or contractual employment obligations, and we just sweep it under the carpet, 2 years down the line, there may be a new Minister of Health. He will not have a historical data to be able to say that, okay, this is how it happened. So let's make sure that we've troubleshot the thing. It's going to, like, we are on the same trajectory. If we do not stop it within a month, within 2 months, I'm not aware if they have any such institutional data, for lack of a better word. And what are we doing for everybody to be assured? Then, if there are parents who have lost their children because of shortage of these things, do they have a recourse to some form of compensation for what it is worth? These are questions that we must start asking us, because if we do not hold these people accountable, these things will be repeated over and over and over again.
And the same people who oversaw this will still remain at post. That's the worst part. The Greek incident with the trains, the sector minister immediately resigned.
Yes.
The station master or so, yes, he was taken on for manslaughter, negligence, all of that. But here, there seems to be that paucity of I don't want to say integrity, but look, you know what? This should have never happened, and it has happened. I'm going to step aside.
Yeah, we don't have integrity in our politics, in our national discourse. We give everything to God. We are not accountable. There's no sense of accountability. People are only interested when it comes to elections. and after elections, they go to sleep, they wake up, and it trickles down. So you have the politicians on one side, and the civil servants or the public servants, whichever they are, on the other side. And they say, well, if the politicians do not do their work, why should I do my work? Because Ghana is not for me. At the end of the day, it is the persons who go and vote in the larger contest who suffer for some of these things, and they do not even have the means to hold these people accountable. Sometimes they want to, but they don't have the means. And it's sad. I'm hoping for the day where, our society would move gradually to the place where there's a lot of accountability.
Right.
In every aspect, for what you say, for what you do, for what you do not say, for what you do not do in the proper context. Once you are paid with taxpayers' money, even if you are not paid with taxpayers' money, but your actions or inactions will affect the larger community, I think we should move to a place where there will be a huge sense of accountability, devoid of political connotations or political colorization. Because sometimes that is the reason why we do not see the accountability in the way that it should be. Because the moment you start holding somebody accountable, it attains political color. The children who would have suffered for this, they don't know, they have not even voted. They don't even vote. So where is the politics involved?
Right.
Their mothers, some may have voted CPP, some may have voted GCPP, but it has affected all of them. So when we call for this accountability, it's not because we are saying this party is in power, we are against them, or that party is not in power, we are favoring them. It will affect all of us. Like they say, it will reach everybody.
You go reach everybody. Anyway, Ragamuffin, interesting name on Facebook, says, it is as though the police or military, when they get killed, the killers are found very quickly, more than any other citizen. Well, I didn't say anything. Let's move on. So attempting to influence Judge Chief, another convicted of contempt. I thought you'd find this interesting. The Bolgatanga High Court 2 last Friday convicted 2 persons, including a chief, for attempting to influence the acting supervising High Court Judge, Justice Alexander Graham. Now, the 2 who were convicted on their own pleas of guilt are the Chief of Bari, Nab, Nyakora Manti, and the Secretary to the Paramountcy, Richard Sunday Yinbil. For their punishment, they were made to sign a 6-month bond to be of good behavior. Here's where it gets interesting. That was after about 12 lawyers who were attending to various cases at the same court had pleaded with the judge to temper justice with mercy and not hand them custodial sentences. On page 63, it talks about the Black Stars missing Christian Achu's final when we say goodbye to him, and that would be because they are preparing for to lock horns with Angola. Quick thoughts on that legal case as we make tracks and wrap with other stories, Bobby. Hello, Bobby.
Yes, I am happy at least the judge who was attempted to be influenced made a report of it. But I'm asking myself whether contempt should be enough, because it's also a criminal offense in our statute books. And so if they are merely cited for contempt and punished, whether or not
So they are signing a bond of good behavior for 6 months.
Yes. So because contempt is quasi-criminal, and so perhaps you would shut the other avenues for criminal prosecution. I'm thinking, other than that, maybe that would have been a stiffer punishment to serve more as a deterrent. Because if they avoid custodial sentencing and they are made to pay a fine, whether or not because this is a canker in our society. People attempting to buy justice by whatever means, in whatever form. At least it's a good step that the judge did not only keep quiet, but he also reported the matter. And you see, I hope that the media gives a lot of prominence to stories like this. Because if it was the other way around and the judge actually accepted the bribe, I think it would have attained more prominence than this good one is currently receiving. And
you have a point.
There are a lot of good
judges.
You
have a point.
But majority of the judges would reject some of these influences, but except that they do not come out to say it. The few ones that are found to have been involved in some of these unjustified or unjustifiable actions are the ones that seem to tarnish the image of the judiciary.
But I think
kudos to the judge.
While I get your point, I think the other side of the argument is that is what is expected in the first place. That is the norm, that those who serve justice will come with clean hands, integrity in serving that justice. You get it? So that is the norm. That is what people expect. So when you deviate from the norm, I mean, it's like a dog biting a person. Normal. But if you hear that, oh, Benjamin Akakpo has bitten a dog, now that's odd. do you get the point I'm making? So I think sometimes that is the situation.
But I agree with you, but if we treat our politicians, those that do not conform with what we are saying are the norm, the same way as we are, the same level of measure on the judges, maybe we would have achieved more development than we currently are.
Right. Let's go to the Ghanaian Times newspaper. It re-echoes some of the stories we've already seen. Childhood vaccines land in Accra. There's also these ones. Gold catcher key to mercury-free responsible small-scale mining. That's according to the president. But I think I'll focus on these two stories on pages 11 and 14. WHO moves to support Ghana improve diabetes control and prevention. And the WHO has moved to support Ghana in its efforts to improve prevention and control of diabetes as a growing public health threat. Under its Global Diabetes Compact, the WHO, in collaboration with the World Diabetes Foundation, is seeking to accelerate the fight against diabetes, which currently affects 2.4 million Ghanaians, by promoting access to equitable, comprehensive, affordable, and quality treatment and care. On page 14, and especially because he's going to be launching his campaign today at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, I had to do the story. The immediate past Minister of Food and Agriculture, Dr. Owusu Efiri-Akoto, will today deliver a public lecture at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, on, quotes, the future of the economy of Ghana. The event will see the former Agriculture Minister share insights into building the agricultural sector into a bedrock for financing the development of other sectors of the Ghanaian economy. I have heard him talk about agric and its potential for our country in the past. How optimistic are you that we can actually harness agriculture like other countries have done, Malaysia, Indonesia, among others, who are our contemporaries at a point, to make the most for the ordinary Ghanaian and maybe prevent going to the IMF one more time? Any quick thoughts on that?
Man, I mean, if we start this, we will not finish.
We will not.
Agric, we always talk about, we give lip service to agric so much in this country. If you go to a country like the Netherlands, that is 70%, I'm not sure of the exact figures, submerged the water.
Yeah.
And they are self-sufficient so much that they export to a lot of countries in Europe. And not, I mean, if we compare ourselves to countries that have the fertile land, they would say, yes. Okay, at least they have fertile lands like Malaysia. But if you go to a country like Netherlands, we still farm or we still do agric like we were doing in pre-colonial times. It's worse now because of the galamsey. So if we have a government that will focus on mechanization or modernization of agriculture in Ghana, we would have solved, I think, half of our problems. The reason being that it will lead to employment, we would import less, and these two things are the bedrock of our economy, because we say that if the fundamentals are weak, the CD depreciation will expose you. The fundamentals are weak because we import most of the things we consume. And so if we have a government, and I'm happy at least this flag bearer, hopeful, is trying to focus on agriculture, it will bring to fore some of the issues. It's good that we are having some high-level politicians narrowing down on certain issues, certain sectors of our economy, and telling everybody that I will focus on this because I know the potential it has on the larger economy. So I'm looking forward to his. I saw the banners at the UPSC campus on Saturday, and I'm really, really looking forward to listening to what he has to say, and whether it to be practicable and whether it to be achievable, whether in the short term, in the medium term, or in the long term. And let's see how the other aspirants, both within the MPP and outside the MPP, will react to his message on agriculture.
Let's look at the final newspaper. I'm not going to go into any details because basically they reflect stories we've seen. Vaccines, Dr. Akoto, Ashaiman and the police arresting key suspects. There's also Education Minister to close down non-performing schools. That story is on page 4. And NIA moves to end age falsification with issuance of numbers to babies at 6 weeks. But let me just take a quick look at the story on page 4. So there you are. The Education Minister, Dr. Yawase Educhum, has challenged the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools and Principals of Technical and Vocational Education and Training Institutions to improve their educational outcomes or stand the risk of having their institutions closed down. He explained that a school with a consistent 0 to 10% pass rate should put together intervention programs to ensure the majority of their students will find opportunities for further studies rather than become a liability to their parents and society due to their inability to pass their exams. Any quick thought? Or maybe let me just add these stories from the Daily Guide and then you can reflect on them. Same stories, vaccines, the 6 who have been arrested. Rebecca Akufo-Addo at 72. Yesterday was her birthday. I hear there was a low-key incident, a low-key party, rather, to mark the celebration. And a belated happy birthday to the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo. Interestingly, she was born in March. Her husband, I believe, also born in March. And yours truly, also born in March. But let's take a quick look at this story.
And then Mrs. Mahama was also born in March.
Oh, Lordina. Ah, yeah. Yes. Yeah, you're right. Interesting, right? Interesting. Nigerian arrested.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I'm just putting the data out there.
So there's this story, Nigerian arrested over woman's death. Sometimes I feel we can just say, someone has been arrested. Why? It doesn't have to be Nigerian or Cameroonian. But anyway, a 24-year-old Nigerian has been arrested by operatives of the National Intelligence Bureau for allegedly murdering a cash point operator, Patience Agokwe, at the Chumesiwa Memorial Clinic in Accra. The suspect, Gideon Vitalis, according to information available to Daily Guide, visited the hospital where he was once a storekeeper but was fired for stealing, having come to Ghana in 2021. He sneaked back to the hospital, targeting the cash point for money, and after spotting Patricia Quay, who had just closed from work, confronted her. The lady went missing and could not be traced, and that's how he was pursued. Any quick thoughts on these two stories? Education and what I just brought you. Any quick thoughts?
Well, it's good at least the education minister is holding the schools accountable, especially if they are subsidized in one form or the other by the government. But I think that we should look at the root cause of why of the perceived failure. Is it because the teachers are not teaching well? Is it because they do not have the necessary textbooks? Is it because they do not have the necessary infrastructure? So it's easy to say as the minister or as the ministry that you are closing down a school because of lack of performance. But what are the causes? If you have not provided them the resources,
right,
you do not expect results.
Right.
So we should focus on providing them the resources, unless they want to say that they provided these schools with all the necessary resources. But if for 2-3 years you do not have the necessary textbooks, how do you expect the students to do well? And by what measure are you determining whether they have failed or they have not? Are you comparing them to other government schools in similar situations, or you are comparing them to private schools, either locally or internationally? And so I believe that the benchmarks or the thresholds should be made public and well set out. And what would you do with these kids? If you are closing down school A, do you transfer these kids to school B, or what do you do with them? And I think that we need to have a holistic policy so that we'll all appreciate where he's coming from.
Bobby, let's just wrap with this in some 30 seconds and we're gone. Agric catalyst for rebound, that's the Daily Statesman, and of course that's Dr. Efri Akoto. Newborn babies to get Ghana card from March 31st. Chief in court over Galamsey and first batch of vaccines arrives in Ghana. The Publisher newspaper, vendors fight ECG over quota hike, and the National Private Electricity Vendors Association has called on management of the ECG to rescind a decision to increase the minimum quota per day purchase meter per meter from 5,000 to 20,000 Ghana cedis. Professor Kwesi Edding says heads must roll over military brutality in Ashaiman. And there's also the BNFT Demand for T-bills surges to a 3-year high on the back of some activities by the Finance Ministry and the Bank of Ghana. Standard Bank may recapitalize Ghana unit after debt provisions. The Daily Dispatch, Energy Ministry targets distribution of 500,000 efficient biomass cook stoves by 2024. Bobby, we have to go. What are your quick thoughts in some 30 seconds?
The one about the kids being issued with a Ghana card, I actually hope that it's done, because then it will avoid a lot of issues with birth certificates when people are old.
Right. The whole age conundrum is a person 20 or 18.
Yeah, with footballing circles. I just hope, because in other countries, the day you are born, within a week, you have your passport, you have all your identity and everything. So there's no avenue for you to now apply later. So I just hope that the National Identification Authority would have the necessary resources to carry this out, because it will go a long way to help the data collection in the country. Yeah.
Bobby, it's always good. So good having you. Thank you so much, sir, for joining the conversation. And I wish you the best of the day.
Lovely.
Thank you. Thank you. Bobby Banson, a lawyer, joining us for News Review. Right before we go, like we stated at the start, this segment is brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. Now, they are offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening as well. Where can you locate them? Across Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Krodoma here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrady Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Isiama in Enzima. You can reach them on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease, but the start of sports. Do stay. We'll be right back.